Well, hello, and welcome to... That intro doesn't actually work for this episode because today we're going to have something different and we're going to be talking about explosions. What, do you really think that all of the resource gathering and all of the gunpowder that we got from Chad and all of the finding a desert was just for resources? No. It was to be able to get all of the TNT, to be able to basically just blow up the world. And we started the blowing up the world session with a pretty big brain move. So one of the mobs that makes a pretty big explosion when it starts, it's the wither, and we decided to fill up the bottom of our wither killing chamber with sort of fish. And the plan was to, well, just get the wither, and with the first wither explosion we would get all of the fish dead and we would get a ton of wither roses that would help us with more withers. Because in the end, well, the other way of doing this is putting a ton of chickens in here and waiting for the wither to explode. But cod, we can get them in buckets and place them in there. And the only thing that we need to do is to wait for the wither to explode. And none of them died, which is pretty underwhelming, but it doesn't really matter because we got explosion! Note to myself, the only way that we are going to be able to get what we want from explosions is actually pulling the trigger ourselves. And actually, if we go all the way down this set of stairs, we're going to be able to get the next step in the explosion. And with all of the explosions that we already have, we were able to get actually some resources. And yep, we were able to get 20 ancient debris. And well, we actually fixed the fish killing chamber and got more beacons, and that actually gave us some wither roses. But the episode is not going to be just explosions in the nether or explosions to get wither roses. We are actually planning on a farm that is going to actually use even more explosions, and we're going to put it over there. So we already have one of those in our mud farm that we have in the cave, but we could have a concrete farm, a nether wood farm, and a regular wood farm. So that's actually going to be the plan for this episode. We're going to harness the power of explosions to get many different types of resources, to get more explosions, to get more resources, and so on, and so on, and so on. So let's jump into the boom house that gives this episode its title. The very first farm we're going to be working on is the wood farm, and I wanted something that was able to get us as many types of wood as possible, and ilmango designed one that is a beauty. Check the link in the description for a tutorial and a much better explanation on how it works than whatever I could say in this time lapse. The challenge with this one, at least for me, was understanding how we can get rid of all of the leaves and get just one slice of wood. And that would be the double piston extender carrying all of the open fence gates. And yeah, it's just a perfect answer to that problem. The other important bit is controlling the height of the trees, especially the oak ones. And for that, we can just put 1 block, 7 blocks above the sapling to avoid those massive super oaks. And finally, how we would get the wood. And for this, I was more or less familiar with how TNT dupers work, so I tried to put the same one that we had in the mud farm. Problem is, it dropped 2 TNT at a time, which is a pretty dangerous thing to have. I think it was the activation system that is based on observers just checking the node blocks. So we had to just change to the regular one with the slime and the dead coral fan. It turns out there's a wall motion right next to the desert. But with that and some clever timings for the TNT to explode exactly at the right height, we got a 100% functional farm to get ourselves all of the oak, birch, jungle and spruce wood. It's one of the most satisfying farms I've ever made. I 100% recommend it if you're in the late game and have a pretty good bone meal farm, and thanks to ilmango for actually having this masterpiece designed. Alright, so step 1 of the boom house complete. So we have our very own general wood farm. We're going to be able to get the oak, spruce, birch and jungle wood, and we only need all of the bone meal that we're getting from chat over there. The only big problem that we're going to have with this one is the fact that the TNT, rather than falling exactly in the middle of this over here, it falls on top of that scaffolding, well, a little bit higher up, which means that the collection system is going to get a little bit trickier, because we might have to put it a little bit lower, or, well, we'll sort it out eventually. The next thing that I would like to get is the next set of farms, because what we want is from this TNT duper, we want to get as well concrete and nether wood. And the nether wood one, it's a pretty simple one. I made it myself, so we're going to, both the concrete and the nether wood, I designed them myself, which means it is not going to be as efficient as this one, but at the same time, it is super easy to understand how they work. So there's a trade-off in there. So we are going to give a look to, give a thought to how we are going to put it, because I don't want it to collide with this one. I think that we're going to put both of them on that side, so both of them come this way. I don't know, let's give it a try. So we have completed our nether wood farm, but let's give a look to the circuits just to check that everything should be working. So the good thing about the nether farm is that you only need one of these nylium blocks, and then everything that grows above is actually not going to matter for the formation of wood. So if you have a supply of the warped fungus or the crimson fungus, you're going to be able to get as much wood as possible. So so we have here a dispenser that is going to be dispensing a ton of bone meal. We still haven't put it in there, but when the tree grows, this observer is going to detect the block generating, and is going to push all of the wood inwards. And if we turn on the farm, we're going to turn on at the same time the dispenser for the bone meal, but also we are sending a signal to our TNT duper to get the wood over there. To do that, there's actually a pretty clever way of transmitting a signal upwards, and it's this column, well, this water column over here. So when we flick the lever, this piston pushes the soul sand and turns this water column into a water elevator, and that change is going to get picked by that observer over there, sending the signal this way all the way to this observer that turns on our TNT duper. So this should do it for our wood farms. Yeah, you can tell that this one, I made it myself. It's much simpler than that beauty over there, but it does have a slight problem, which is you do need the fungus. And for that, I have made a custom farm that we're going to jump into the redstone world to see how it works, and then we'll get building it in this one. So welcome to my redstone testing world, not the one showing the tutorials, but well, we will eventually have tutorials for these farms as well, but this is our fungus farm. So instead of doing the usual thing with the shakers, I wanted to use flying machines to collect all of the fungus. Flying machines that are going to be moving those glass blocks that are going to be pushing everything into these water streams that are going to send everything to this collection system. So if let's turn on the farm. So every single time that the flying machine reaches one of the ends, it activates the dispenser at the bottom, and the flying machine is going to end up pushing all of the goodies into the water streams and be collected. So the good thing about this is that we're going to be able to collect everything, and these warped roots or the crimson roots, we're going to be able to compost them to make a little bit extra bone meal. And the other good thing is that as long as we have those, let me turn this off. As long as we have those 5x5 patches, we could make this as long as we want. So we could have one for the warped nylium, another one for the crimson nylium, and have all of them in one row. So this is going to be what we build in in the hardcore world, but it's going to take a little bit of time, and it's going to take yet another time lapse. And with that, we finally have a way of getting the nether mushrooms, which means once we have enough, we can give a shot to this nether wood farm, because I'm actually kind of curious if everything is going to work together, because yeah, I have definitely not tried all of this in the redstone world, so we'll see what happens. But before that, one of the problems, and actually one of the most satisfying things, let's skip the night first. Yep. So one of the most satisfying things is actually how everything is collected. actually, well, you might have seen it in the time lapse, but we're actually going to give this one a pretty good shot when we finish the collection system. But all of the goodies that we get from that farm are going to be propelled out of those windows, and all of them are going to fall in that hole, which is going to lead to our collection system. And actually, yeah, that's going to be the next bit that we do before we even try this thing. Because from all of the stuff that we got over there, from all of the stuff that we could get from here, we should have a way of getting it rather than going into that hole and picking it up. So let's jump into the collection system. That I think that I'm going to sort of improvise it, because I am not entirely sure, well, how I'm going to fit it, well, with the building that we have in mind. And we finally got everything running, and it's working beautifully. We already have a ton of wood fungus, crimson fungus, and the types of nether wood, and some oak, and the rest of the wood, and we're able to recycle a ton of wood, well, weird roots to get ourselves some bone meal. So all of the redstone stuff is working. The only thing that isn't working is actually how this thing looks, because if we check from the top of Chad, we can see that it's just a ton of redstone, and it could use a little bit of decoration. So the objective is going to be, well, to make it look prettier, to make it make sense, and at the same time to get something that allows us to make a bigger storage system. Because it's not like we're going to need more than those couple double chests of materials, but it just looks better to have more storage. So we're going to start planning on the different structures that we're going to have, and we're going to start the building, and that is actually going to be the last big time lapse that we have in this episode. See, that was a pretty big time lapse. Alright, so yeah, what basically happened was that took around 4 hours to build, and I didn't stop the replay mod, so in the end the file got corrupted. That is something that I'm going to have to learn, but very happy with how all of that has ended up looking. So let's give it a look from Chad. That is more or less the same angle as we saw before. But yeah, so what I thought about was having one big room that was going to be, well, the explosion chamber, and then having, well, one tower over there for the nether wood farm, another smaller one for the concrete maker that we have added. We'll give it a look in a sec, and another wing on the other side for the regular wood farm. So in the end, it has ended up looking like an abbey, and I'm pretty happy with how it looks. Well, it's going to take some time to get that oxidizing of the copper to get that blue tone that we were going for, with that gradient going upwards. And that was actually one of the other problems that we had, gradients. Because in the end, I am very used to, well, doing that randomizing and getting the sort of gradient, same as we have done over there. But in this case, I went for something that was a little bit flatter, with not that much detail. And in the end, it just looked weird on the big walls that we had. But very well, we might add some details. There's actually one full window that we haven't included, that one over there in behind the bushes. But let's give it a look to the inside as well, because I ended up going for, well, this pattern that I really like how it came about. Then we have one window representing the regular trees that we have, another window representing, well, it's not that clear, but it's representing the blue tree that we have over there, the massive storage system. And if we go up, we have this very nice platform that we will end up decorating our wood farm, well, our nether wood farm, our regular wood farm, and by the very end, the fungus farm completely ready. We will have to put some work on the interior, because this main room, it's almost ready to go, but we have definitely not finished the wings and the back of the interior. But that is going to be actually for the next episode, because we kind of spent a ton of time decorating this, and that is going to be all for today. I hope you enjoyed it. yeah, stay tuned, because there are going to be tutorials for most of the farms that I have made in the past episodes, and I'll catch you on the next one. See ya!